Greetings. This is Hear Her Sports, the podcast for everyone who loves stories by and about female athletes and other women in sport. I am your host, Elizabeth Emery. Welcome. Today on the show, I am talking to AJ Hurt, a U.S. Alpine ski racer. In 2024, AJ had a breakout season with 2 podiums on the World Cup circuit. These 2 terrific results were her best ever and the first time she ended up on the podium. These results are exciting because the prior season, she was out due to an injury and didn't race once. AJ tells us what it was like and what it took to get to the World Cup level. She started ski racing as a tiny tot because her father has been a longtime member of the Palisades Tahoe Ski Patrol. Her mom was a lot less sure about skiing, which is a funny story in the episode. There are lots of funny bits in the conversation with both of us laughing, but don't be fooled by AJ's chill attitude with a bit of self-deprecation thrown in. There are plenty of beautiful, truthful, wonderful nuggets in what she said. AJ and I also discuss injury, going fast, control and lack of control, the recent NCAA Women's Final Four, and what aggression in women's sports look like now. And she talks about the not glamorous living out of a bag for 6 months World Cup tour. This episode is a perfect follow-up to the last one with rock climber Beth Rodden because AJ too likes being in the mode of figuring things out, which she was happy to share with us. I also like that mode, always looking for a little bit of improvement or some greater understanding of how things work. Well, with that, onward, let's meet AJ. Well, hi AJ. Thanks for making the time to be on Hear Her Sports. You are the very first Alpine skier on the show, so a big welcome to you.
Thank you so much. I'm
a little
excited to be
pressure,
here.
right?
Yeah, now I didn't even know that. Now there really is some pressure.
Yes. Well, first off, you started very early on. Did you have any idea about, being really good or dreamed of being good?
Yeah, I think growing up in a place like Tahoe, I like Tahoe just where there's so many winter athletes, I guess specifically, and growing up looking at Julia going to the Olympics and like Marco Sullivan too. And so I don't know, I guess I always kind of dreamed of being like them.
Oh, that's cool. And what was it like skiing in those early years, as a kid, thinking about those great skiers and being there and I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I think I always dreamed of being like really good and being the best and at the top, but I also just loved skiing so much. And so when I was younger, I really didn't even train or race until I was probably like 10, which I guess still seems pretty young. But I spent a lot of years of just free skiing, and yeah, I just love being on the mountain and I love being out there.
Well, how old were you when you started? 4 or something, right?
But yeah, probably two, I
Oh my
think.
gosh. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because my dad's a ski patrol. He's been working at Palisades for like over 30 years now. So it's kind of normal for all of like the ski patrol kids to be out there pretty young.
So why did you start racing?
I think what we would always do, they have something called Mighty Mites at in Palisades, which is like where you just pretty much free ski all day, but then or all the weekends, and maybe 2 or 3 times a year, like everyone would get together and race, and I always thought that was so much fun. But then I think I really like joined the race team probably when I was like 11 or 12, I want to say. I don't totally know.
And do you remember why you were interested, or was it just another fun thing?
Well, I think like as soon as you were done with Mighty Mites, it was kind of like you either went and did Big Mountain and Park and that kind of stuff, or you went to racing. Like you pretty much had to choose between the two.
Hmm.
And yeah, I don't know. I liked going fast more than I liked caring about what I looked like. So
Yeah. Do you remember what you were thinking about as a kid, like before you started racing? And, I'll ask you about that later, but like, were you trying to get better? I mean, what was your mindset?
as a kid, yeah, I think every day I just wanted to get better and I loved spending like when I started training, I just like really liked training and having something to like achieve like shoot for, I guess, and wanting to get better every run and every day. I was kind of like, yeah, it was like kind of like a game and it was
Oh,
fun.
yeah. Even as a young kid. That's cool.
Yeah, I guess so.
Like, what did your parents think? Were they like wanting you to race or not wanting you to race, or did they care?
They honestly they did not care at all.
Right.
I think that I mean ski racing is a quite expensive sport, obviously, and
Yeah.
my dad being a ski patrol, my mom is a teacher in like the school district where I grew up, so didn't really come from the kind of money that a lot of people in the sport came from. So I think for a while, my mom would always tell me, she would be like, "Hey, just so you know, like if you want to play soccer instead, like that's okay." And I was like,
That's
"Well,
amazing.
I kind of like skiing." She was like, "Well, yes, but no pressure."
That's funny. Were you good right away?
Um, I think yeah, I guess I was probably like when I was young, I was like successful, I guess.
Yeah.
Yes. I don't know.
Yes. Yeah. Sounds like it. All right. Um, so okay, so you started racing around 11 or more officially racing at 11. Like what's the progression from an 11-year-old to getting on the national team? I read somewhere that you were part of the national training group. Like what is that and how did that work into sort of where you are now?
Yeah, I think I made it onto the national training group maybe when I was 15. I want to say 15, and I don't know, I think I just trained a lot, and my mom told me that if I like kept getting good grades and if I kept A's, then I could go and miss like some days of school as long as my teachers were okay with it in like middle school. And so I would also train a lot during the week, which was fun. And so I feel like I just put in so many hours and I really wanted it so badly that eventually, I don't know, it just the hours kind of paid off.
Wait. So you were skipping school to go ski? I love that.
I was. I was a little.
That's great. Uh, so what was the tell me more about this national training group and what that meant. Like did you go to team camps and things like that?
Yeah, the first year I was on it, it's more for the age group like U16. And so you're not quite at the FIS level yet. There's not really like a US ski team aspect of it, but it's like the closest you can get to being on the US ski team at that age, I guess. I think they call it something different now. I think it's
Oh,
I don't even know if it exists, to be honest. They are
oh,
always changing around like that age group, whatever they want to do with it.
right.
But it was more or less like it was the first time I went to Europe to ski and with just a group of girls from around the country instead of like skiing with the people just that I grew up with, which was definitely an interesting or a new experience.
Yeah, for sure.
But
Wow.
I do feel like I don't know, it helped a lot skiing with like some of the best and feeling the pressure of that, I guess.
So how much were you racing early on? Like were you traveling around? I mean, you obviously just gave the story of Europe, but other than that.
Yeah. I until then, not really. I think we would travel around California, I guess. And I think the furthest I had gone is maybe at that point. Oh, I guess I went to Sugarloaf in Maine, which was like a crazy trip
That's
to,
far,
or it
yeah.
was the farthest I had gone at that point.
Yeah.
But usually it was just like around California or up to, yeah, maybe up to Hood or something.
Okay.
Mount Hood.
Well, let's leave your youth behind. And since we're talking about all these skiing disciplines, can you like sort of get us up to speed with the different disciplines and maybe what are the important aspects of all of the disciplines?
Yes, I can try. Um, so I guess there's four disciplines for Alpine, slalom, and they progressively get faster and more distance between the gates and straighter. And it goes slalom, GS or giant slalom, super G, and then downhill. And I mostly right now I'm just skiing slalom and GS, which you would consider the technical events, and super G and downhill are considered the speed events. And they kind of are separated at the World Cup level into two different tours.
Oh,
And
I didn't know that. Yeah. Okay.
yeah,
Cool.
and there's like there's pretty much actually no crossover except for at World Cup finals and like World Championships or Olympics. You kind of never see any of them.
So what made you focus on these technical disciplines, the slalom and the GS rather than the speed ones?
Well, honestly, I kind of always thought I was gonna be more of a speed skier because that was what I was best at when I was young. Just because I was never the most technical skier, but I was always good at just kind of sending my body down the hill. But I like was just getting technically better, and then I also have gotten hurt a couple times skiing speed, and so I was kind of hesitant to go the speed route, even though I was for a while kind of being pushed towards there. But I eventually was having good races with Solomon GS, so then I was able to stay there.
That's sort of interesting. So how fast? What is the difference in speed between, let's say, I don't know, downhill and giant slalom? Let's pick those two. I mean, is
Um,
it a big difference?
I would say it's pretty big,
Hmm.
and GS or Giant Slalom is probably, oh man, I think you probably get around 50 to 60 kilometers an hour, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little less. I could be off on that. And whereas downhill, you're like 100.
No. Wow. Okay. Yeah, that's big.
Yeah.
Okay.
You might have to fact check me on those numbers.
Quite all right. I will.
You
Uh,
can.
um, you had a ton of success this season. What was it like getting on the first World Cup podium?
It was really crazy. I truthfully don't think, I mean, I did not expect it at all. The first time, not really the second, but definitely not the first time in Kronsgaard, just because I've never really been that successful in slalom, and at that point, I'd only ever scored World Cup points in slalom twice, and both times I was like 27th or 26th or something. And yeah, I don't know. I had good splits and good like sections of runs before, but I had never put two runs together like that in a World Cup, or let alone any race, honestly. And so that was really crazy. My coach came up to me after and was like, just, like being very nice, but he was like, I can't say I expected that today. I was like, yeah, me either.
So what happened? How did like
I
why?
I still don't know. I That was the last slalom race I finished this year, so I've done a bad job of replicating it. But I think it was just a lot of things came together right, and met perfectly. It was the kind of snow that I grew up skiing on. It was very wet and not icy at all, which is what I like because I don't really love skiing slalom on ice. And it was just, yeah, I don't know. I think I was in the right mindset for it. I was kind of sick of being second to last, or like just hardly scoring any World Cup points. And I was what's the point of doing this if I'm not going to go all out? And if I go out, if I DNF, it's okay. I might as well like try my best. And then it worked out.
It sure did. I read your quote. I think it's on the U.S. Ski and Snowboard site that says, "If you're in control, you're not going fast enough." I really love that quote. What's that like to be out of control?
I feel, it's a little bit scary sometimes. It's a little bit, I feel like you have to get used to being kind of in that mindset or in that space of where you're just not totally sure if you're gonna stay on your feet or if you're gonna make the next skate. But that's always where, at least for me, that's where I'm skiing my fastest, is where I'm just on the limit. And so I do stand by that quote. I do love it too.
But am I correct that alpine skiing, both in the technical versions and the speed versions, that it's a lot about balancing speed and control, but also safety and I mean, you have to finish the you have to finish the race. You have to get to the end to do well.
Oh, for sure. No, and which is also a large reason why I don't ski speed anymore, is because I maybe ride that fine line a little bit too close to the not in control side, which is more dangerous when you're going 100 kilometers an hour versus 50. But yeah, I'm working on a little bit more control.
You talked about injury. I read that you were injured all of last season. It's
Yes.
amazing to come back so strong, isn't it? Something must have happened in that off season, I think.
Yeah, well, it was like I was injured last or two summers ago in August, and then it was a high ankle sprain, which was kind of misdiagnosed or just kind of underplayed. And no one was really telling me to like, oh, this is not great. You shouldn't be skiing on this. You should probably like rehab. And so I was like, I guess I should just ski. It's just an ankle. And then it just kept getting worse and worse until eventually it like fully, the syndesmosis, I don't know, like this ligament tore. And then I had to get surgery. But it was honestly a lesson first to like listen to myself and not pay attention to what other people are saying. Like, I should have just known how much pain I was in, that I shouldn't have even tried to ski for those 2 months. But then, yeah, I don't know. And then once I took a step back and was like, I'm just going to take the rest of the year off, I don't know, it was kind of a relief almost to be able to start over and like work back from the beginning and get as strong as I possibly could for this past season. And it was just, I don't know, I guess it paid off in the end. Yeah.
So you used the year that you took off to mostly to get stronger, it sounds like.
Yeah, I came to Dartmouth and I did the winter and spring terms there, which was awesome. So it was great to kind of, I guess, have a life separate to skiing for a little bit and yeah, do that while I was working out a lot.
Did you focus on your ankles or you were focusing on sort of the full picture?
Kind of, yeah, just kind of everything.
Yeah.
As soon as I got surgery, I was on a little knee scooter for 8 weeks, which was
Oh, what an
so much fun. Which in New England they don't have a lot of, yeah. I don't know. The accessibility in the winter was not awesome, but it was still fun.
So this past season, you did very well. I mean, were you part of the World Cup the entire season? Did you do all the races?
I did, yes. I didn't do well at the beginning, but I did race them. Yeah, I guess so.
And how does that work? So are you picked, because I'm used to the cross country ski season where, like there's
Hmm.
period 1 and period 2 and all that stuff and different teams are selected for that. Like how does it work in Alpine?
Yeah, I feel like it's quite a bit different. It's as far as World Cup spots, like who gets to start the World Cups, it's all dependent kind of on the year before, but also ongoing as the year, like as the races happen. And there's something called World Cup start list or like WCSL. And if you score points in a World Cup, you kind of have those points for the rest of the season. And then they kind of trickle out the next season. It's honestly very complicated, but pretty much if you score points, you have a spot to race World Cup for the whole next year, which I obviously didn't because I was hurt, but you also open up a spot for anyone in the country to race. And we had we have like 5 girls on our team, but 3 of them got hurt. And so they had a bunch of spots actually this year, kind of for a lot. Like we had, I think in slalom, we were able to start 9 girls and we were only starting like 4,
Mm.
which was kind of crazy.
And how does the team work in Alpine? Like, do you all go to the race and stay in the same house? And like, who's coaching, who's cooking, that kind of stuff?
um, During the World Cups, they have like World Cup lodging where each nation, I guess, is kind of assigned to a hotel. It's not that exciting. And then we just go stay for like 2 nights at a hotel and they cook us dinner, which is good because, well, Paula, who I was with, it was pretty much just Paula and I this year. She's an amazing cook. And so is her husband, Ryan, who's her technician. But that would be a lot if they were expected to cook all the time because no one else is a good cook. So it's probably good.
And between races, where are you staying and who are you staying with and all of that stuff? Like, I guess like the logistics of going over for the entire season is always, I don't know, it sounds very difficult and it's also very interesting.
Yeah, no, I get this question a lot. I wish we had a home base and I wish there was somewhere where we always kept going back to, but honestly, we're pretty much living out of our suitcases all winter from probably from October to March unless we get like a chance to go home. Yeah, we just kind of are bouncing around from place to place. Usually in Europe, it's in hotels. Rarely, which is weird because I feel like the Nordic skiers cook for themselves more, don't they? I don't know if you
Uh,
know that.
They sometimes have cooks and sometimes they don't, and I have not figured out like when each of those things happen.
I feel like they're maybe a little bit more aware of their nutrition than Alpine, whereas we're like, we'll have pizza for 6 lunches in a row. It's fine.
It's nutrition, cheese, bread.
I mean, you're getting a lot of food groups in.
Um, but if you're bouncing around, how are you getting your training? And there's so much that's part of being an athlete that like you can't put in your suitcase. I don't know, like you said, proper nutrition, but also proper recovery and the good pillow and stuff like that.
Yeah, I definitely travel with a pillow because European pillows are horrible. I don't know. I think that you just kind of get used to it at this point. A lot of us have been doing it for so many years that you kind of get used to that. You train somewhere for a few days and you're living in a hotel room. You're usually sharing a room with your teammate, and then you get up and you move on to the next place, and you go to the race, and it's just kind of the lifestyle, I guess.
Right. Do you like that, or I mean, does it? It's always a hard question for me to ask. I mean, does it feel onerous?
I
Have
think I
you
don't know
gotten
if I
used
would
to it?
say yeah, I would say more that I've gotten used to it than if I think this year we had maybe a few weeks. We had like 3 weeks where we got to leave our bags in one place, and it was so incredible. And it was almost a bad thing because I was like, now we have to go back to packing up every few days.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know if I'd say I like living out of a suitcase for
Yeah.
6 months, but it's okay. I've gotten
You're in
used to
beautiful
it.
locations anyway.
Exactly. Like it's hard to complain when you're in the middle of Italy or Austria. Like what are you supposed to say?
Right. So you have had a breakthrough season. Do you have any reasons why? And you also improved throughout the season. So again, any reasons why? What are you learning?
I don't know. I think that this is honestly one of the first seasons I went through without having any sort of injury or anything at the beginning or throughout the season, I guess, to that I'd have to like, I don't know, sit out some training or even like sometimes getting super sick and then you feel like you lose all of your strength. So I think that helped a lot. And I also just think getting older and having more experience, like I don't know if I can really account it to just one thing, just that sometimes that's like the way things happen and sometimes you just get better because you get better. I don't know.
Yeah. Are you focusing on anything in like specifically?
Skiing wise,
Yeah.
I feel like maybe in slalom, like I have certain trigger like focuses that I thought about this year that I think helped a lot. But I think in general, it's more just the time and I feel like ski racing and I feel like every sport is such like you feel like you've really figured something out and then you kind of need to figure something else out and it just kind of comes in bursts of like not overnight changes, but they almost feel like it, I guess.
That's what I love about sport. There's, like you're never gonna figure it out all.
Yeah, like there's always something that you
Right.
need to, yeah, exactly.
I sure hope you are enjoying today's episode with Alpine ski racer AJ Hurt. If you are, please consider supporting the show with a cup of wonderful coffee. All of the support I receive from listeners through the Buy Me a Coffee platform go directly to editing and to producing this podcast, which means your support increases the amount of media coverage for female athletes and women in sport. Sports media coverage for women is on the rise, but primarily from small enterprises like this very podcast. I'll also say that equity in sports is greater than it ever has been, but it is far from equal. In just this past week, I've seen many social media posts about number one WNBA draft pick Caitlin Clark making only slightly over $76,000 for the 2024 season. If that sounds like less than what a rookie NBA player makes, it is, by a long shot. Hear Her Sports absolutely can use your help to keep us strong, growing, and well-fueled. Every donation is very much appreciated. Go to buymeacoffee.com/hearher or to the support tab on hearhersports.com. Thank you.
Hey there, my name is Michael Laminato, and this is Pit Pass F1, a brand new podcast that'll take you closer to the action of the world's most prestigious motorsport. From Monaco to Miami and Australia to Azerbaijan, Pit Pass F1 is on the ground and has you covered. Esteemed F1 journalists Julianne Cerasoli and Chris Medland will take you inside the sport every round. They'll keep you up to date with the latest news breaking in Formula One and the most influential views shaping the world of Grand Prix racing. Every Friday, we'll be bringing you a track guide and race preview, and Chris and Ju will be in your feed every morning from Saturday through to Monday to keep you up to date on all the day's action on and off the track. So if you want to be in the know on the latest in Formula One, subscribe wherever you get your favourite podcasts and visit us at evergreenpodcasts.com. Pit Pass F1, a brand new show for Evergreen Podcasts.
Now, let's get back to my conversation with Alpine ski racer AJ Hurt and find out more about speed, control, injury, and nerves at the start gate. I want to go back to just sort of the speed and the control thing. I mean, is it, you're at the start gate, like, are you nervous? Are you thinking about the speed? Like, what are you thinking about up there? I mean, are you worried about injury? I mean, I can't imagine that on the start gate you're thinking about getting injured, but so like, what are you thinking?
I feel like, I mean, honestly, injury, I think, is always kind of lurking in the back of everyone's mind, especially like, I mean, I don't know how much you pay attention to ski racing or the World Cup circuit, but this year especially, I mean, every year it feels like there's more and more people that are getting sidelined from injuries, and it's hard to not think about it. But I think that it's something you just have to know it's a risk, and you're taking that risk every time you step into any start. And, that's just kind of the way ski racing is. But I mean, yeah, you can't just try to not think. I mean, I guess you have to try to not think about it, but you have to know that it'll be sitting in the back of your mind. But as far as nerves, I don't know. I think that nerves are good. I think if you're feeling nervous, it means you care, and that's a good thing. You just have to think about other things, and then it kind of takes away the nerves. If you're so hyper focused on something you're working on or a line or something, then you kind of forget that there's how fast you're going or whatnot, or how, the danger of it.
Right. What are you thinking about on the start line?
Right now, I would say, like, I've said this to other people and they don't get it, but just if you're trying constantly to go as fast as you can, and it sounds obvious, and it sounds like, no, obviously you're trying to go as fast as you can, but like actual speed wise, if you're always trying to look for a tuck, or you're always trying to just get as much speed, no matter how fast you're already going, you're trying to go even faster. I think that has helped me a lot. And yeah, I don't know. It does seem obvious though.
No, I like that. But how do you, going back again to an earlier question, how do you balance that with, some sense of control? Are you thinking about the control at all?
Well, I'm obviously not balancing it that well right now, but I'm I'm, I'm working on it. Yeah, I think, well, honestly, what I think that I struggle with is that I'm really good at going all out in races, and yet I can never get into that. I can't get that aggressive or that kind of mindset when I'm training. And so I'm not used to like training. When I'm racing, I'm not used to training as like psycho, and then I go out. And so I think I just need to practice more balance in training of going all out. I don't know if that makes sense.
Oh, that's fascinating. I love that. Cool. Well, so it's off season now for you. So what are you going to be
Mhm.
doing? What are you doing now?
I am at school right now, taking some classes, which is nice. And then we have a spring camp in end of April. beginning of May, which will be like 10 days in Tahoe, which I get to stay at home, which is awesome. And then we get like a bunch of time off until we go skiing in August.
And what kind of training are you doing? Clearly
Like,
not just going to classes and eating
that's true.
bonbons.
Well, honestly, right now I've been having a nice 2 weeks of relaxing, but I guess just normal dryland training. I joined the club basketball team here on a whim, and I'm really
Wow.
bad at basketball, but it's really fun to just I love playing sports, and I don't really love to run or just to bike. I would rather have kind of an objective when I'm working out, and so I think that's really fun. And we play a lot of pickleball here too, I guess.
Wow. And what about strength training? Anything like that?
Yeah, a lot of lifting.
Okay.
I'm starting that this week.
So what would your schedule look like? I mean, not now because you're sort of still, it sounds like, in rest mode, but once your off-season training really kicks in, like how much are you doing and how are you balancing that with your school?
I guess probably 2 workouts 5 days a week about, and then maybe another one on Saturday or something, and you just take Sunday off.
Hmm.
But that's kind of like a loose program,
Sure.
sometimes more, sometimes less, I guess. And yeah, sometimes it's hard to fit it in when you're taking classes, but it's also, I don't know, it's kind of the whole gig of being here. You have to fit in time to work out. So
And how much longer are you going to school?
I have 4 more terms, but I've only been doing spring terms, so 4 more years, including this one. So
Right.
kind of a long time.
I've only spoken to you on the Alpine team, as I mentioned, and I've spoken to a ton of Nordic skiers. So, like you're taking on the characteristic of all the Alpine people. But
That's horrifying.
the vibe seems very different to me. I mean, do you have any sense of that? Do you know the Nordic skiers at all?
I don't know them that well. I actually went to the same high school as JC Schoonemaker, and we were like 1 grade apart. So I know him. I know him and his family a little bit. I think that the vibes are definitely different, just because I don't. I think there's the endurance sport versus the like adrenaline sport is definitely obviously going to have different people interested in each one.
Right. No, that's a good
But
point.
at the same time, we like this year, Paul and I went to go see part of the tour to ski in Dobbiaco in Italy, and it was so awesome. And I feel like once you're actually like there and competing, kind of everyone is so similar. Everyone who's like an athlete has the same kind of mindset, and so I don't know. It's very different, but at the same time, we're all just trying to win, I guess.
So, long term, what are you hoping to achieve in your career?
um, I don't know. I guess kind of the same things everybody is. I think globes are pretty cool and Olympic medals are pretty cool, and those would be nice to have. But I think at this point, I don't know. I don't like to think about that too much and just focus on trying to get better and just enjoy being able to ski for a living is pretty awesome.
Hmm. So you said you didn't think about the Olympics. Do you know the path to that? I mean, are you figuring to get on the Olympic team just by skiing your best and improving, and or are you focusing on certain races?
It's funny because I feel like a lot of people kind of have this image that because it's a winter sport and because it's such a niche sport, that Olympics are kind of the biggest deal, and they are such a big deal. But at the same time, like we all care so much about just the normal World Cup season and the World Cup circuit, and because that's how you qualify for the Olympics, it will come if you're doing well. And it's not something you have to like do extra work for. It's just you focus on the normal World Cup season, and if you do well there, then it will qualify you.
I'm struggling to figure out how to phrase this question. It doesn't seem, yeah, I don't even want to say that. Like a lot of athletes are super goal oriented and like the next thing that, like they know the next thing that they want to achieve, whether it's an actual result or more often it's, some sort of thing that they're working on. It doesn't seem that that's how you train.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's good to have goals and it's good. Like, obviously, that's how you push yourself and you want to move forward in your career. But I also think that if you just like, think about those too much and if you dwell on that, then I don't know, you kind of lose focus on how to just get better with skiing and just, I don't know. I've always felt that if I just focus on the skiing and the actual technique and tactics of it, then the other stuff will come.
Do you have a coach?
Yes, yeah. Magnus is Anderson is our head coach, and he's amazing. And I think I've been with him for maybe almost 6 years now, 5 or 6 years, which is crazy, but he's awesome. He's our on the hill coach, and so like at ski camps and during the season, he's the one, that's correcting form or just telling you what to do at the end of the day. And I mean, he does everything. He organizes where we're training, what we're doing, which is a lot of work, especially these days when there's no snow anywhere or, what snow is going to be good or what mountains, if there's going to be good people training with us. And that's a lot of work for him, but he does a really good job. It's awesome.
This is a more broad question. You're a young female athlete. What is your perspective on the state of women's sports? I mean, do you relate to the excitement about the growth of women's sports, the discussions about attendance, for example, during the recent women's Final Four basketball, which was in Cleveland, Ohio, by the way, where I am?
You're in Cleveland, Ohio.
Yes.
I think it's so amazing. I just the past few weeks with March Madness. I have no idea what happened with the men's games or like what was going on there. To be honest, I didn't watch any games, but I did feel like I was so like staying updated and looking at the scores and watching Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese and all those girls. Like, I don't know, they're so good and they also brought so much passion and like entertainment to the sport, and I feel like everyone was loving it. And I don't know, it was pretty cool to see like people actually start caring and being like, oh, this is like something to watch. And I feel like they've done a lot for women's sports just in the last few weeks.
Have you noticed from your perspective as a skier, like the change in women's sports? I mean, is that important to you?
Yeah, I think you can also credit Michaela to a
Sure.
lot of it. I mean, she I think I mean everyone saw how amazing she was when she was younger and how she would blow the races completely out of the water by like 2.5 seconds, 3 seconds. And slowly kind of everyone just caught up to her. And if you compare like women's slalom right now to women's slalom 10 years ago, it's kind of crazy the difference. And of course, like new skis and new techniques and new everything, but it's a much bigger difference than when you compare men's now to men's 10 years ago. And I think having like these stars who and just bring up the level of everyone and like make people compete harder is amazing, and I think it's doing a lot for the sport.
What is the difference between now and then?
Just like people are going for it and like there's aggression and there's people are skiing better. And yeah, just all in all, it's it's a better sport now and people are skiing a lot faster.
I love that you use the word aggression because that's something I've noticed in a lot of sports. I mean, basketball, like we just saw, but also in soccer. And to me, that's been the biggest change. I mean, I'm old, so, comparing it to when I was a kid to now is super different, but that you notice it is cool.
Yeah, I mean, and I also like I not to diminish anyone who was skiing before 10 years ago because they were also amazing. But I think it is cool to just watch girls go out there now and like lay their body on the line and just go all out. I think that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I do too. And I'm not diminishing, the women that came before.
Yeah.
But it's just, it shows, I think the aggression of women playing sports now, whatever the sport, shows me that things are changing, not just in sports, but outside of sports, because they're not coming to their sport, with nothing, they're coming having been raised by society. So I think it's great.
Yeah, no, it's pretty cool.
Is there anything that I left out that you like to talk about? Like, what do you like to talk about most about skiing?
I don't know. I'm really grateful for everything it's done and for all the friends and people that I've met through it. And I love ski racing, and I'm glad I get to do it all the time.
When do you start up next?
Racing wise,
Yes.
not till October will be. So we actually just got our schedule for next year for the World Cup season, but it looks good. I'm very excited.
All right. Before you go, how should people follow you, and not just you, but the skiing tour, and what should they watch out for when they're watching?
Yeah, honestly, the streaming rights are kind of a pain, but just following all of like the US ski team and all of the racers on social media, I guess, is probably the best way to stay updated.
Cool. Sounds good.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
Instagram.
Yeah, follow you on Instagram. All of that will be in the show notes. Promise.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. It's been I've listened to a few of yours and they're really cool.
Well, thanks. Thanks for taking the time to be here. I know, especially with school and all that you're doing, it's a lot. So thank you.
I'm glad to be here.
Well, that's a wrap for this week's show. Thank you, AJ. Be sure to follow her on Instagram to keep track of what she's up to. And hopefully we'll have more alpine skiers on the show when the season starts up again in the fall. I would like to learn more about throwing yourself down a mountain at 100 kilometers per hour. AJ had terrific insight into lots of speedy topics. If you like this episode, you might like to hear from race car driver Tony Breidinger, speed skater Aaron Jackson, and lacrosse player Dempsey Arsenault. All young, speedy athletes. Find all the episodes on your favorite podcast player or at hearhersports.com. Also on the website, find ways to reach me, discover more about the athletes in their show notes, and support the podcast through Bookshop, Buy Me a Coffee, and our new affiliate, Naboso, who make terrific toe spreaders shaped precisely for feet. The best way to support the show, though, is to tell your friends, colleagues, and training partners about it. Hear Her Sports is a proud member of Evergreen Podcasts. Thank you to them and to you for your ongoing support. It's an absolute pleasure to be part of this community of women's sports fans. Until next time, bye-bye.
Running should be simple. Just put on your shoes and go. And yet, when you try to learn about how to get better at it, especially as you age, you're confronted with conflicting advice, complicated workouts, and confusing nutrition trends that just won't work for you. On The Planted Runner, I'll share exactly how to run faster, longer, and feel great doing it at any age because you don't have time to waste. I'm Coach Claire Bartholic, and I went from not running at all in my late 30s to finishing a marathon in 2:58 at age 42, all on a plant-based diet. I've helped hundreds of runners achieve new personal records well into their 60s and even 70s with science-backed training, plant-based nutrition, and proven mental strength techniques. Each episode of The Planted Runner is like a private coaching session on the run, where you'll learn from me and the guests I interview. You'll get actionable lessons to help you become a better runner every week and reach goals that you never thought possible. Whether you're training for your first 5K or your 50th marathon, take along The Planted Runner on your next run. Let me show you how your best running is still ahead of you.